Hello everyone and welcome to Call Sign Charlie Models. It's Andre here and we have another unboxing today. The Hobby Boss 1/32 scale P-61B Black Widow. A total length of this model kit is 472.2 millimeters with a wingspan of 628.8 millimeters. So this is going to be a large kit. So even for a fighter aircraft, this will be a very large kit. I think it's about the size of the P-38, maybe a little bit larger. But moving on with the box art, again, nice box art. Looks like it's flying Twilight, painted up real nice, cut off some bits, and you'll have some nice wall art for your work area wall. So moving along on the side, we have a little blurb about the Black Widow and two decal options here. We have P-61B from the 547th Night Fighter Squadron, Lingayen, Philippines, Lieutenant Arthur Bark. And then also we have the P-61B from the 6th Night Fighter Squadron, Captain Ernest Thompson, March of 1945. And then on the other side, we have just the top and bottom profiles of the model, and then the two decal sheets that it comes with. So this box it feels really heavy, so I'm hoping that this is because it is loaded down with plastic. So I'm going to get this box opened up to take a look at the inside and how it's packed, and holy cow, it does have a lot of plastic in it. So I'm going to get all this plastic out and get it set up so we can start going through everything. So give me 1 second. Alright, so bonus before I start the video, I believe I bought this one in a model show or off a friend, one of the two. And bonus to this was I did find out it has the avionics cockpit set to it, so a bunch of added detail in there. All the resin parts that go along with it, the floor for the cockpit right in here, and then it also came with decals and a bunch of Edward stuff for it as well. So when I build this kit, we'll go into all of this as another video, but I'm not going to do that right now. But starting off, we'll go with the instructions, and typical Hobby Boss / Trumpeter format. We have a nice little booklet here. This is kit number 83209, and on the front we have a read before assembly, decal application, and our legend of symbols right in here. Then we open it up, and then we have all of our parts callouts in here. All around there we have a couple photo etch parts, our rubber tires right here. We have metal landing gear, and also it does come with metal weights as well. Alright, so moving on, starting on the cockpit right here, we're doing all of this detail in here, getting all that added in, and then all of our radio and radar boxes in here, getting all those added and detailed up in there. And then we're adding the radar box to the flight deck and all of that, and then our front instrument panel getting added on, then our sidewalls for our cockpit, moving on and getting all of this done. Looks like there's a ton of detail in this front cockpit. Then after that, we're starting off with our nose landing gear, so getting our nose undercarriage assembled. Has a metal core with a plastic a sandwich part to give detail to the landing gear, so this will be nice and strong. And then we are adding our landing gear bay and a ladder to go in there for boarding. Then we're adding some guns to the bottom right in here and getting all that done. And then moving on, we're getting our forward fuselage section together, and we have some wing interior detail for the wing roots right in here, getting all that done, and then we're closing all that up. We're getting the radar on, and then some top section of the fuselage, and then we have a couple other little parts right in here to add in. Then after that, we're working on our gun turret that goes on top, and then we're adding in our clear parts. Looks like we have the option of having the windows open, probably. And then we're adding in our landing gear doors and some other panels along in here, and then our rear hatch for the rear section of the airplane. Then after that, we're starting our engines. We have a lot of parts to go on. Looks like it's going to be a nice full detail engine with the framing system to go in there. And then we're doing our main landing gear and landing gear well there, and then we're adding these all into the tail booms along in there. Then we start off with our wings, getting our wings done, our speed brakes and all that, and our superchargers, it looks like. Getting all those on, and then we're adding our wings to our booms, and our rudders, and flipping it over and doing the other side. We have some PE to go as a grill right in here. Then we're adding our landing gear doors, our props, and our engine cowls right there. And we're repeating for the other side, and then yeah, just keep repeating, repeat, and then we're getting everything put together with our horizontal stabilizer and elevator right in there. And then afterwards, at the very end, we're adding in a couple of doors for some type of bay that I do not know what it is, and then we have fuel tanks to add on here as well, and then we also have some antenna to add on to the fuselage at the very end. So now we have our color callouts for the P-61. Again, some very nice detail on there. I do like the Lady of the Dark decal option. That one does look very nice. And then we flip it over to the other side, and we have Sleepy Time Gal right in here. So another nice decal option on that, and having it all nice and chipped up. That will definitely break up the monotony of the black. So very nice decal options on that. Then we open it up, we're going to get right into this box right here. Okay, working on our clear parts, and these clear parts look crystal clear. Absolutely no issues with any of these clear parts right here. And then we have our dashboard for our instrument panel right there. So some very nice clear parts in there. Okay, so moving on, we got rubber tires. The tread is decent on it. There's no sidewall detail on here. I do think for this I will be trying to find the some resin tires for this. And then moving right along, we have another bag of clear parts. So we have our clear top fuselage section right here. Nice rivet detail, and then the back section of here is kind of smoky. Or no, this is the nose section right here. And it's kind of smoky. So even if you were to leave it open, you can see inside of it definitely, as you can see right here. But it is a kind of a frosted glass in there. So yeah, some nice detail on that. Okay, so now we have our main canopy parts, and again, like all the other clear parts, crystal clear on here. No issues with any of that. So this is gonna absolutely come out amazing when it's all said and done. You definitely want to get a mask set with all these clear parts. Okay, up next we have metal landing gear and something else that's metal. I'm not sure what those are for, but I'm sure it's going to add extra weight or extra strength to something that needs to be supported. But again, metal landing gear does look very nice. There is a metal burr right along the middle, so you will have to get those sanded out. But again, some very nice metal landing gear that will definitely improve the strength of this kit when it's all said and done. And then here we have a glass version or clear part for the gun turret, so you can show off the internals of your guns, and as you can see, you can still see through it. Me personally, I am not a fan of clear replacement parts on models. I'm not a fan of that personally, but I think if you do build it up and you do the detail on it, it does come out very nice. But that piece is done. Then we have a rubber sprue of our ammo belts and a couple of hoses right in here. Again, some nice detail. When you get those weathered up and painted, those are going to come out real nice when they're done. Then we have 2 photo etch frets, typical of Hobby Boss and Trumpeter. They are rather thick photo etch frets, but some nice, these are going to definitely add some nice detail, along with these grills right in here. It's going to add some nice detail to all that. Alright, and then we get 2 clear engine cowls for here. Some nice detail, nice and clear. For me personally, if I'm going to have an engine cowl to show off the work, I'm going to actually cut off the panel and take care of it that way. But if you want to go with the route of having a clear part, more power to you, but it does look pretty clear and you can see through it pretty well. Okay, then next we have a bunch of weight. That's why this box is probably so heavy, was all the weight that was in here. This is going to help prevent it from being a tail dragger or a tail sitter when it's all done, so definitely want to use these. Alright, so up next we have our decals for our pinup girls, and the artwork on here is absolutely great. No issues with any of it. There's a little bit of a glossy touch to it, but not too bad. And the carrier film is cut right alongside the artwork, so you won't have a huge issue with any of that. Alright, and then our main decals. Very few decals on this kit. You have the Lady in the Dark and Sleepy Time Gal 2 right here for, and another Night Fighter Squadron patch, I guess, right there. And then your stars and bars do look nice. There's a hole in this one for probably a refueling cap or something like that. And then your numbers look nice, and then you do have a decal for your instrument panel right in there, and then your walkways along in here as well. Alright, so getting into the plastic, again, some very nice rivet and panel line detail on here, as you can see all the way through. And your landing gear doors, again, some very nice detail, some raised rib detail along on your horizontal stabilizers slash elevators in there. And then we flip it over to the other side for our landing gear doors, which would be the only part that I'd be worried about on ejector pin marks on this part, and there are no ejector pin marks on the insides of the landing gear doors as well, so it's very nice. And then again on the top portion of the wings, again, very nice rivet and panel line detail all in there, and again, very nice. No issues with any of that. On the other underside, again, you're not going to have to worry about anything. There is a little bit of a raise on these ejector pin marks, so you might need to sand those down. Those might be a fit issue, but we'll have to see about that. Alright, so this is a double sprue right here. We have the upper and lower portion of our outer wing along with our flaps or ailerons right in here. I'm not sure on which one these are, but again, some nice absolutely gorgeous panel line and rivet detail in there. And you have the area that your speed brakes are going to go into, and then again on the bottom side, some very nice detail. And then this is going to be the area where your fuel tanks sit, so again, very nice detail all around there. Like I said, this is a double sprue, so you get 2 of these, 1 for each wing. Okay, up next we have more detail for our wheels, and then our, looks like our main landing gear. Alright, so we have the option of having plastic main landing gear or the metal landing gear, which I would highly recommend with the size of this kit and how heavy it's going to be. Definitely use the metal landing gear. The inside of the landing gear doors, again, no ejector pin marks on any of those. And then for your engine bay or your landing gear bays, again, no ejector pin marks on that. Some nice panel line and rib framing detail on there as well. Ejector pin marks are all in places that you will not be able to see, so there's no issues on any of that. Alright, so this sprue is of our booms, our wing booms right in here, and again, like the rest of the kit, absolutely amazing panel line and rivet detail all through here. These are your superchargers. No ejector pin marks on the inside of those, so there's not going to be any issue with any of that. And then that's about all I can say for that. Again, on your rudder detail, some nice detail on that on there as well. And you do get 2 of these sprues as well. Alright, so this sprue is of our main fuselage section, and the rivet detail, like the rest of the kit, absolutely looks gorgeous. No issues with any of that on there. And then we flip it over to the other side. You do have a little bit of detail back in here with the framing system, and then on front you're going to have the walls that are on the cockpit, so you're not going to have to worry about any of that. And even then, it is crystal or silky smooth. No ejector pin marks or anything like that. There's some nice location bars, so you will not have any question on where anything is supposed to go. So again, some very, very nice molding on that. And so you can see the rivet detail on there. Like I said, absolutely gorgeous detail on that. Okay, on this sprue we have a bunch of little fiddly parts. We do have an ejector pin mark right in here, but I'm not sure what that is for. Probably a seat cushion if I was a guessing man. And then we have the outer shell to our nose landing gear right in here, and some nice detail on that. Again, I'm not sure what these pieces are for, but they don't look like they will be of like visual to see. Again, your landing gear doors, again, nice rivet detail on there, and no ejector pin marks. Those are all panels that are supposed to be there. And then on this, I think this is one of your landing gear walls for your landing gear bay. Again, nice detail there. Alright, so now we have, looks like the components of some radios in here, and some radar detail in here. Getting all that on. Here's your radar dish, very nice detail on there, and then your boarding ladder right here. Again, some very nice detail. And your cockpit walls, you're going to be adding a bunch of little parts to that to really liven that up, so that's going to be nicely detailed. So alright, so in this sprue we have our propeller blades. Again, very nice, and the edges to them are very, very thin, so nice detail on that. And then we have rivet detail all along on our bulkheads, and I'm assuming that these points are for where we're going to have attachments for radios and such in there. And then again, where radios and radar equipment will be going on there, and no issues on the back side of that. And then on this side is just a repeat, except for this piece right here, which I am not sure what that is for, but we have prop blades, bulkhead, and another radio bulkhead as well. Alright, so we get 2 of these sprues, and there are engine detail, and the cooling fans on the cylinders do look decent. I'm not going to say they're great, but I'm not going to say they're bad. They look decent, but you're going to add all this other detail to it, so it's really not going to be visible through the through all the other details, especially if you go in and add spark plug wires and all of that. The front housing, again, also does look very nice for the detail on that as well. Then I'll have all these hand pieces that go on top of the cylinder heads. You have your exhaust, and then all of these parts that go along the top of your cylinder heads too. So it's going to be a very nicely detailed engine when it's all done. Alright, and then our next sprue, we have what looks to be our guns. We do have a little bit of a mold release agent on here still, but definitely want to make sure that we get all these parts cleaned up. On the ends of the guns, the tips of the barrels are hollowed out, so that is not an issue. Those should be very nice when they are all done. And again, some very nice detail all the way through for areas that you will be able to see. Alright, so up next we have our cockpit floor, and the detail on here looks, it looks okay. There's not much to it, but you're going to be adding a lot of parts to this, so it shouldn't be an issue. Here is another, I think this is a boarding ladder as well, and then you have some cable detail in there, and then your seats right in here. So, and then moving on to the other side, you do have some ejector pin marks all along in here. And then this is where your nose landing gear bay is going to be, but I think the walls actually connect into here, along here, and the ejector pin marks are just on the outside of where those walls are going to be. So you shouldn't have any issue with any of that. So some very nice placement of the ejector pin marks for that. Alright, so after that you get another sprue of engine detail with your prop cone right in here, and then your cylinder heads. Not sure what the difference between the two are. We'll have to see. Maybe it's one sprue is for the B, the P-61B, and then the other one is for the P-61C that came out. So we'll have to see and check on that. But so far you get 2 of these sprues, so we have 4 total sprues of engine detail on here. So we'll have to check that out. Alright, so up next we have our cowling, our cow flaps. Looks like we might have the option to have cow flaps closed or open. The open version does look absolutely superb. No issues with any of that. You might want to thin these out right at the very edge because they do seem a little bit thick, but that's me being nitpicky right there. So again, some very nice detail on that, and you do have the option to have them closed or open, but again, I think for me I will go with having them open. Alright, so we have another sprue. It looks like this is bulkheads for our landing gear wells, and then some other detail. We did have these pieces in metal, so I don't know what those are for, but we'll have to see. And then we have all of our radar and radio boxes along in here. We do have a nice, I think this is the actual like radar scope right in here, so you can see the nice range ring detail in there as well. So again, some very nice detail all in those pieces. Okay, this is our last sprue, and we get 2 of these sprues, and they are our fuel tanks, and then a couple other detail pieces like pylons right here, and then we have some guns. I think these are the guns that go on the belly of the aircraft as well, or they might be the ones that go up on the upper turret. So again, some very nice detail in there, and we flip it over to the other side. No issues with any of that, because all of the places where the ejector pin marks are, you are not going to be able to see any of it. Alright, so that does it for the Hobby Boss 132nd P-61B Black Widow. I have to say, this kit absolutely looks amazing with all the detail, rivets and panel lines and everything, in the smart placement of the ejector pin marks. Even like in the nose landing gear well, whereas the ejector pin marks are right outside of where the walls are going to be for the landing gear bay, so you're not going to be able to see it. It's very smart placement of your ejector pin marks. It does come with the clear parts for the clear nose, the gun turret, and a couple other pieces. For me personally, I will be painting over them, but I mean, there is going to be a lot of detail. It does have a full radar. There is full detail in the guns and all that, so you do have the option of having it so you can see inside of those areas. As for the rest of the kit, I think the only things I have left to get, luckily with this, I did get, by pure luck, the avionics cockpit set and a bunch of Edward to throw into this. But the other things I'm going to get are a mask for all the glass work that's in there, because there is a ton of glass work in this. And then the only other thing that I'm going to get are resin wheels, and that's it. So the cockpit, I'll have to take a look at the avionics stuff and see how that looks, and then go from there. But again, this kit absolutely looks amazing. I love the box art right here, or the nose art, the pinup girl. We'll have to see how those are. I also do have the other decal options that came with the kit, aftermarket wise. So I'll have to take a look at those and see which ones I'm going to use. But I think I'm going to go with this one, because the decal set that I have for the aftermarket, the engine cal's all red, it's really colorful and all that, so I think I'm going to skip that and just go with possibly this one right here. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this unboxing. I hope it gave you insight on if you're on the fence getting this kit or building this kit or whatever. I hope this one gave you some insight and helped you make a decision on whether or not to go whichever route you're on the fence on. But don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Comment if you've built this kit before. Comment if you have had any issues with it, or if it went together like a dream, or any other thing like that. So, and then also hit that bell button so you get notifications of when I post future content. And until next time, have a great day and stay frosty, my friends.